Hello everyone, welcome back to another card combo show with me, Chocobilly, and this week we are delving into Opus 21. I mean, we did last week as well, but this will be coming out on the actual release, so yeah, Opus 21. And a very good card is Balthier. So, 4 CP, 8k, wind forward, with the text, when Balthier or a wind character enters the field, choose one forward opponent controls, deal it 3000 damage. And then discard one Job Sky Pirate, activate all the characters you control. You can only use this ability once per turn. So, yeah. Whenever a wind character enters the field, so monster, backup, forward, it doesn't matter, it will trigger Balthier to deal 3k to something, which is really good. And then you can discard a Job Sky Pirate, literally anyone, and activate all the characters. So again, monsters, forwards, backups, it doesn't matter. So yeah, very, very useful. You can play Balthier with 4 backups, then discard a card to activate all your characters, and you have basically only paid 2 for him with that discard. And yeah, there are loads of Sky Pirates obviously, and you would quite like to have the new Fran in the break zone as well, so having that there ready for when Balthier enters the field to then bring it back onto the field as well works nicely. But yeah, this card has some really, really good combos and is just generally pretty strong. So let's get into it. First up, we have Opus 3 Barbarisha. When she enters the field, choose one forward opponent controls until the end of the turn. Its power becomes 1000, and Balthier obviously will trigger, deal it 3k, so you'll have set something to 1 and overshot it by 2, so probably going to kill it. Mid. So this is actually quite fun because you can do it on your opponent's turn as well. So it might be that your opponent attacks with something, you then bring in mid with back attack, and then maybe your opponent attacks and does an auto ability on Balthier or something like that. You can play mid onto the field, cancel the effect, make it so they're untargetable, and then buff a forward by 1 and then block. And not forgetting that obviously Balthier will deal the 3k to something. So let's say you deal 3k to the attacking forward, block with mid, that's total damage 10k. That's not too shabby. Obviously, you could block Balthier if you wanted, having been buffed by mid as well, so, you know, you could potentially deal even more damage if you really needed to. Penelo. Obviously, it's going to work very nicely with cards that set power, and Penelo is a very, very easy one to do, because all you've got to do is dult any dancer and set something to 4k. Now, obviously, that's just under what Balthier can do, but you could quite literally play Penelo onto the field, deal 3k to something, dull a dancer that isn't Penelo, set it to 4k, pass turn, then Penelo's effect of casting a single card this turn will then kill said forward. So yeah, not bad at all. And I will admit I have built a basically mono wind dancers deck using these 2 cards because I can see it working really well and being lots of fun. And yeah, obviously it works nicely with other cards that, you know, just set to damage as well, set to power. So you've got Penelo, but then Yagudo as well, playing him onto the field for only 1 CP, again dealing something 3k, and then you can break Yagudo to set another thing to 4k as well. So let's say hypothetically you played Penelo, then you played Yagudo, then you break Yagudo, and yeah, you've just set so many things to 4k, and then you pass turn, having, you know, something like Penelo, it could be just another dancer as well, which deals damage to the board, having some means of dealing board damage, whilst also having multiple means of dealing or setting power to 4 or something like that, like Yagudo, Penelo, whatever, is really, really useful. Diablo. Same sort of thing, apart from this time, it actually will kill. On the other hand, though, Diablo obviously is a summon, not a character, so it means that whilst you are setting something to 3k, you will have need to have played a character as well. However, let's say you've played 3 characters and then you cast Diablo, you then get to set all forwards to 3000 power. Just be mindful because that includes your own forwards as well. So yeah, he reads, if you've cast 4 or more cards this turn, all the forwards' power become 3000 till the end of the turn instead. All the forwards, including yours. So be careful. If you're up against fire or lightning or something like that, chances are they'll make the most of that and kill your forwards as well. But still, if you've cast 3 characters onto the field this turn, dealt 3k to do 3 different things, then you cast Diablo, set those 3 forwards to 3k, kill them all. Not too bad. Cecil, so utilising some means of playing things onto the field, and yeah, I mean, you obviously can play things out of colour with Cecil, but he works nicely in mono wind, so play Cecil into something else. With Balthier, that's 2 pings of 3k. You could either kill something with it, or just, kill something with the 2 pings, or damage 2 separate forwards for 3k. Chocobo Knight. So this is where we start to utilise Balthier's second ability a little bit more, because obviously Chocobo Knight, you can dull to play a Chocobo onto the field, and it's a Chocobo of cost 4 or less, so that's actually really good. But let's say you've got a couple of Chocobo Knights, dull Chocobo Knight, dull another Chocobo Knight, deal 2 things 3k, as well as having Chocobos enter the field, but then you can discard with Balthier to reactivate all your characters, reactivate these guys, dull them again, play more Chocobos onto the field. Now, obviously you're probably just going to end up emptying your hand, but if you're killing forwards at the same time, that's not too bad. Then if you start utilising something like this Chocobo as well, where you dull Chocobo Knight to play a Chocobo, to play a Chocobo, to play a Chocobo, and you then start ramping your field, whilst also nuking your opponents, that's a lot of fun. And again, you can then discard with Balthier to reactivate Chocobo Knight. And the best thing about this as well is that, obviously with Balthier, it's just discard, 1-drop Sky Pirate, activate all the characters you control. You can only use this ability once per turn, but you can use it on your opponent's turn. So you could Chocobo Knight, bring something onto the field, discard, reactivate Chocobo Knight, dull him again, bring something else onto the field. Opponent's turn, discard, reactivate Chocobo Knight, bring something else onto the field. So yeah, lots of fun things and ways to be able to bring things onto the field during your opponent's turn. Dancer. So obviously I mentioned Dancers once already, and weirdly, out of like every Dancer deck I've ever built, I've never really put this one in it because, you know, it's never mono wind. However, the deck that I have built is now mono wind, and this is actually becoming a consideration because getting 7 wind characters isn't hard at all. And yeah, Dancer, you can dull it, deal 1000 damage to all the forwards opponent controls. If you control 7 or more wind characters, deal 4000 damage to all the forwards opponent controls instead. So yeah, playing lots of things onto the field, dealing 3k here, there, and everywhere. Dull Dancer, deal 4k. Obviously, you could have this Dancer and another of this Dancer to deal 8k. So at that point, Balthier, it's not really that much of a problem. However, you can dull the Dancer, deal 4k to everything. Discard with Balthier, reactivate the Dancer. Dull it again, deal 4k to everything. Disgusting. Do it on your opponent's turn as well if you want. Just, yeah, you get to deal 4k to everything twice for just a discard. I mean, Dancer or Balthier have to stick around, which is obviously the problem. But if you're running something like Mayakov to make it so Dancer can't be targeted, maybe the Water Pinello to make it so Balthier maybe can't be targeted as well. Who knows? You know, there's plenty of ways to be able to protect these guys. There's also the Cecil that I just played, that showed you as well. So, you know, your opponent has to pay to be able to choose these guys. So, yeah, that can be pretty rancid. Asura. So obviously you can play Asura, reactivate your backups, or you can play Asura and get a Sky Pirate back to your hand, and then just reactivate your characters as well. So Asura has now gone from reactivating all your backups or 2 forwards to reactivating everything. That's really, really good. Again, obviously you need to, 1, have a break zone, and the way that Lightning is going at the moment, that's probably not going to happen. And 2, you need to keep Balthier on the field as well, and the way that Lightning's going at the moment, that's probably not going to happen. But still, either way, use Asura, get back, I don't know, Philo or Pinello or something, discard it, reactivate everything, jobs are good. Noel, obviously when Noel attacks, he can then flicker himself out at the end of the turn. He then, you're beginning to be main phase 1, comes back onto the field, that'll trigger Balthier, deal 3k, just a nice consistent way of dealing 3k to something, which isn't obviously a huge amount, but still it's enough potentially to threaten with Noel as well if you did want to actually attack and try and deal point damage that way. So let's say hypothetically you're in a position where you can't afford to wait the following turn, maybe you're at time or something like that, and you're on your turn 3. But still, it is a means of being able to deal 3k upon entry relatively consistently. Van, yeah, I mean, like anyone hasn't considered this right, Sky Pirates with Balthier. Sky Pirates aren't as strong as they used to be, but still, now with Van, he enters the field, brings in a Sky Pirate of 2 or less, activate your backups. And then when a job Sky Pirate you control is chosen by your opponent's summons or abilities, choose up to do backups, activate them. So now Balthier is chosen, you get to activate 2, or you can just discard to activate everything. And yeah, this Sky Pirates are going to have a wonderful time just reactivating everything consistently all the time. Leatherford, another means of being able to play something onto the field. Obviously, the more higher costed that card is, the better. But, you know, Leatherford into field, real top 5 cards in your deck, play 1 win character of cost 5 or less among them onto your field. So let's say Leatherford into Cecil, maybe? Into something else. Yeah, that would be the dream, but never going to happen. But either way, Leatherford into Cecil, into something else, provided that something else is a wind forward. You then deal 3 packets of 3k, so deal 9k something. Not too shabby. Fat Chocobo. Again, just be able to bring multiple things onto the field in the same turn. So Fat Chocobo into Chocobo into Chocobo. But you see where I'm going with this. Fat Chocobo into something else is just super easy. Deal 6k to something. Getting to two additional backups whilst also potentially killing something else as well is really good. 3k is a bit of a weird amount for Balthier, or with Balthier, because 3k isn't enough to kill anything on its own, but 6k is either overshooting the smaller things or undershooting the things you really need to kill. But either way, 3k is probably the most balanced amount, because ultimately Wind isn't going to struggle playing 3 things onto the field and dealing 9k something. Wind is already super efficient, now it can actually kill stuff at the same time. Fran. What was I saying about dealing packets of damage? Play Fran onto the field, deal 3k something, trigger Balthier, deal 3k something. And if you've got Balthier already on the field, Fran then becomes a 1 CP backup as well. So you get to deal 6k to something for 1 CP and gain a backup. Nice. Bismarck, Lord of the Mists. Yeah, this is pretty rank. So let's say you play Bismarck onto the field with Balthier and 5 backups. Deal 3k to something, then dull Balthier and Bismarck to deal further 2 lots of 2k to something else, or do that same thing, so that's a total of 7. Discard a card, reactivate your backups, and Bismarck and Balthier. Do it again. So yeah, it's very easy now to utilise Bismarck with Lord of Mists, using something like Balthier. Obviously, Bismarck's fallen off a bit these days because he's a little bit slow, and dealing 2k isn't quite enough anymore. But it's an alternative now to Balthier, because you can't obviously return things back to your hand, so maybe if there's something you want to keep on consistently replaying, Bismarck is another means of doing that, so maybe bouncing your Luso back to your hand or something like that. But either way, yeah, being able to reactivate things and then dealing additional damage, and it could even be a case of on your opponent's turn, they attack with something big, you block with Balthier, and then, or they attack with something, you discard to reactivate with Balthier, and then dull them. So you deal 10k, maybe 12k if you need to. It's just, yeah, another nice way of being able to utilise Balthier's reactivation, and then again, bouncing something back to your hand on your turn, you can then play that character back onto the field, triggering Balthier to deal 3k. Sophia Soppo, Stranger Paradise, Final Fantasy Origin. That's a mouthful. So when Sophia enters the field, choose 1 summon in your break zone. If there are 2 or more category Stranger Paradise forwards, add it to your hand, and then when you cast a summon, you may dull 1 active category Stranger Paradise forward you control. When you do so, choose them forward, deal it to 5k. Obviously pairs really nicely with Lulu because you deal 5k, and you are also setting something to 5k with Lulu. However, if you are in a mono-win deck, which is, if you're playing Balthier, you probably are, Sophia probably as well, maybe Tiamat as well, because that's the only other Sopfo forward in Wind. But it means that you're actually able to get, you know, a summon back to your hand, and then, you know, cast it, deal 5k to something, or dull either one of these two, deal 5k to something, and, you know, from the forward entering, from Sophia or Tiamat, whatever, entering the field, triggering Balthier, deal 3k to something else, and then you can obviously discard Balthier, reactivate your forwards, maybe then attack with them, so you can use Sophia, Tiamat, and Balthier to remove forwards out of the way, then use Balthier to reactivate everything, to then attack with them as well. Obviously, if you play them onto the field, because you're triggering Balthier's entry effect, you're not going to be able to attack with them, but you know what I'm saying. There are lots of means here of being able to actually deal damage to things by dulling your forwards, and then reactivating them, and then pushing through, hopefully. And finally, Talika. So, yeah, Talika is obviously a big part of that Infinite that was going around about a year ago, I think it was, that utilised the likes of Yuna, and Zidane, and Lulu, and Mira, I think. And yeah, just really, really useful. But the point is here is that you can use a card like Balthier to reactivate everything. So you dull Talika, you play Balthier. This is assumed on 5 backups, by the way. But you dull Talika, you play Balthier onto the field for 3. You play something else onto the field for what was 2, now 1. You then discard a card with Balthier, reactivate everything. I mean, it could even be you dull Talika, you play a Tomos onto the field for 1, you play Balthier onto the field for 3. Activate 2, play something else onto the field, then discard with Balthier, activate everything, play more things onto the field for cheap because Talika's made things cheaper. You know, there are just so many good ways of being able to utilize Talika. Now, using Lulu and Chocobo, which are the obvious options here, is really, really good because let's say you've already got Balthier on the field and you've used Talika, you play Lulu onto the field for 2 CP, set something to, deal something 3k, you then cast Chocobo to put Lulu back in your hand, set something that forward to 5k, then replay Chololo, replay Lulu onto the field, that forward you set to 5k and has dealt 3k, you deal another 3k, kill it, you can bounce back Chocobo and rerinse and repeat as many times as you want. And again, obviously you can discard for Balthier to reactivate things, discard or cast Asura, reactivate things, set something to 5k. You know, there's so many good ways to be able to just set things to small amounts of power and deal damage at the same time with Balthier, and it's just, yeah, really, really strong. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to testing out Balthier and having some fun with him. Ultimately, I don't think he's game-breaking, and therefore, I mean, I say that, he ultimately can also activate all characters, which is very strong in and of itself. But you have to pay the full cost for him to come onto the field, and then you can refund his cost, so to speak. So, yeah, he's, I don't think, too broken because of that, and he's a little bit fairer. And because he's fair, to a degree, I think that means he won't see as much play. I'm not saying that there aren't some really good decks I'll be able to utilize him in, but when you see the likes of things like Mono Lightning now, weirdly, and you've got things like Scions which can just ramp the board, yes, you can ramp with Wind by playing small things and just keep on playing things onto the field and deal 3k to lots of things, but when you compare it to the likes of Scions, which are playing things onto the field, but also just straight up breaking things from one thing entering the field, that's the, you know, the compromise here is, you know, Y'shtola enters the field and you minus, I don't know, like 12k from all your Scions on the field, and then, you know, Thancred enters the field and breaks something, and there's just so many easy ways in that deck to be able to break stuff, but that's just Scions anyway, and it always will be apparently. But either way, I really, really like Balthier, and I think he's got some really cool things he can do. He's very versatile. He's, yeah, just a bit of a fairer wind card, which is more my style. I don't like the kind of degenerate way of playing with Zidans and things like that, unless of course I want to win. But yeah, that is it for this week's episode. You'll probably notice that the animations are a little bit different. Trying out some new software. It looks alright, seems to be okay. Let me know what you guys think of Balthier. I think he's a lot of fun. I'm really looking forward to trying him out in 1, my Dancers deck, 2, a Chocobo deck, and 3, who knows what else. Anyway, thank you so much for watching, guys. Stay safe, be lucky, and I'll see you in the next episode.